in the United States of America, the union that represents Customs and Border Protection is not being permitted to wear their members to wear masks. Their supervisors told them to remove their masks at the San Isidro crossing. This is insanity. This is suicide. And this flu epidemic, whether it be now or in the fall, could turn out to be Obama's Katrina. Let me repeat that. The 1918 flu originated first in the spring, and it appeared in a milder form than later. Later in the year, when the flu season arrived in the cold months of November, etc., the virus came back in a mutated form and wiped out a good portion of the earth. And I am hoping to God this doesn't happen, obviously. It could affect me as well as you, as well as anyone else. Common sense would dictate that a nation that cares about the health of the people would do everything in its power to inform the people and to protect the people. China does. China is. Even Mexico is protecting its people. But the Stalinists in the Democrat Party are doing the exact opposite of what is necessary to protect the population. And they will not at all debate me. Instead, they want to just try to berate me. Why would China suspend flights from Mexico today? Well, they're saying, well, let's reduce the number of people coming in from Mexico with the virus. Isn't that logical to you?
Yeah, but what do you do about the people who are citizens of this country?
No, wait. Let's take one step at a time. Of course there are people who've gone to Mexico and come back. And of course there are illegal immigrants who've come in for treatment. We understand that. So would logic dictate that you permit more people with the virus to come into the country, or as few as possible?
As few as possible.
So how do you do that? You suspend flights in and out of Mexico to start with. You close the border with Mexico. You permit customs agents to wear masks. You take commonsensical approaches. This government won't even permit a discussion.
So the people that live here, that are on vacation in Mexico that may have the virus, you keep them in Mexico until they're better or they die, or what?
Well, now you're changing the discussion. Now you're asking about treating people who are already in Mexico. That's a separate discussion, is it not?
You're saying close the borders to Mexico. What about people who are citizens of this country that are in Mexico traveling on vacation or whatever?
Well, they can be quarantined in Mexico and treated in Mexico until they're better.
So
here in China, more than 300 guests and staff at the hotel where the patient had briefly stayed were placed under quarantine for 7 days as officials announced draconian measures in a bid to contain the virus. The Chinese government understands what an epidemic can do to a nation. They've almost been wiped out from flu epidemics in the past.
So you think it's reasonable to keep a U.S. citizen in Mexico with a basic flu virus until they get better?
Well, what would you suggest? Bringing them back into the country with the virus?
I haven't heard anything that indicates this is anything more dangerous than any typical flu, other flu virus.
Oh, so it's nothing to worry about. So the Chinese government is wrong, and all the other governments that have suspended flights in and out of Mexico, they're all wrong. Only Obama is correct.
People died of regular flu.
Oh, the only person who's correct in the world is Chairman Obama. Is that correct?
I don't know what his stance.
Well, the fact is that you're buying the government's lies, hook, line, and sinker. You're not using common sense, Jeff. If you try to apply common sense, you'll get the right answer. People are not stupid. 1-800-449-8255. Closing the border is an obvious solution. Banning flights in and out of Mexico, obvious solution. Other countries are doing it. Now, if you say this is demonizing Mexicans, you're wrong. If you say this is fomenting hatred for immigrants, you're insane. This is common, sensical disease control and prevention. The rules of epidemiology have not changed in ages. Find the source of the infection. Once you do, try to control it at the source. Don't let people come out of that area into the general population. Don't go into that area until this is abated. Common sense. But apparently the people in America have lost common sense. They rely instead upon thin men with Lilliputian brains. Apparently they have all had intellectual lobotomies in the Obama administration.
Yes, Dr. Savage. My son is a doctor at a county hospital here in California, and they are literally getting overrun with immigrants that are coming in now, not only because they have colds or sniffles, but because they all believe they have this swine flu. So we're
Yes.
handing
Well,
out-
sure. Well, it's all free. You see, they don't have to pay 10 cents for their treatment. And I've been in emergency rooms last year 3 times for some serious stuff. And every time I was there, they were bringing children in with as little as a common cold. And the entire family enjoyed it. They got a translator. They got a nice warm bed. They got really intelligent, expensive doctoring. Why? They don't even have to pay $5 for the visit. That's because we live in the stupidest nation on earth.
You're absolutely right. The numbers in the emergency rooms.
If you made anyone coming into an emergency room pay a minimal fee, let's put the flu aside, you would stop seeing illegal immigrants flooding in for basic care. And that is what they are doing now. They've been treating common colds in emergency rooms for years because the illegal knows that the gringo has to give it to them by law. That's because of the cowardly politician. That is why the country is going bankrupt in the healthcare system.
Time, out of the mist, your voice is calling.
It is. You know, isn't life ironic? I have mild symptoms of the flu myself. I was trying not to talk about it, but I have to for a reason. I was planning to go to Las Vegas tomorrow to cover the fight, the big fight. And I told you I was iffy about it to begin with, but I was going on a friend's private plane, so I figured that part of it is not to be worried about, whatever. Well, I woke up this morning, my hands were ice cold, I had a slight fever, I couldn't hardly move and all of that, so I said to myself, how am I going to tell my audience that I might have the flu? They'll say, well, did you get it from an immigrant? Wouldn't that disprove your contention that closing the borders would stop the flu? After all, you didn't associate with an immigrant. I said, well, I don't know if that's true. Let me explain why. Over the last, you know that I eat in restaurants all the time. I complain about them all the time with a rare exception. On Wednesday, I was in San Francisco. I ate in a Chinese restaurant. Then I ate in an Indian restaurant. And last night, I got some takeout locally. I'll leave the place out of it. I like the owner. And I've been sick since last night's takeout. All you got to do is look in the kitchen. And you know most of the kitchen workers are from another country. It's just the way the world is today. How do I know what was in the food? So I did what I practiced what I preached. I told you what to do. I blasted myself with ascorbic acid to the point where I couldn't tolerate it. And then I took my secret dose of vitamin A drops, which has always been amazing for the children going back to the beginning of their childhood. We've avoided antibiotics almost their entire life when they were babies. Vitamin A drops in a certain amount. They're very, very powerful, immune-enhancing. Of course, vitamin A is a tricky substance. You have to limit the amount you take because it's fat-soluble and all of that. Unlike vitamin C, which is water-soluble, and you'll just eject more than you need. Vitamin A you can really overdose on, so be very careful with it. But anyway, I did other things, certain herbal teas and this and that, and I went on the air. And even my dog Teddy, the poodle, is looking sick. I don't know. They mimic. Dogs are mimics. I was laying in bed right till before the show. He was laying in bed. So that's the way dogs are. They're the greatest mimics on earth. And I'm suspecting that I may have the first case of Pullman flu, which is a cross between the poodle and the human. I may have Pullman flu. It may be the first case of Pullman flu. It's possible that Teddy brought it in the house. What do I know? He goes in the street and, he sticks his nose where, God, you wouldn't stick your nose. Dogs are dirty creatures. The Muslims are 100% right about that. There's wisdom in every sphere of life if you can only cull out the germs of wisdom from the rest of it. And I'm very fanatic about a dog when he comes back in the house. I mean, we have wipes for their feet and their mouth and their hair. You bring them in, you're going to kiss their hair? You kiss them on the head? Well, they just rub their face in terrible things in the bushes. And people don't understand that dogs and cats are carriers.